In this part, we just have more examples of factoring trinomials. And so let's take a look at this one here. Remember, the way we're going to do this is we're going to think of the FOIL method. So first thing I would end up doing is drawing two sets of parentheses. And the nice thing about this is that the directions not only ask us to factor each trinomial, but check our answer. Well, if you do it this way, your answer's checked because you're checking as you go. So remember, the first terms need to multiply to make x squared. These are the first terms. The last terms end up multiplying to make 16. So that's kind of what we're going with, is just the first and the last terms. And then we check the outside and inside terms to see if they make this middle term. So x and x make x squared. Those are the first terms. I know that's right. It's got to be that way. Now, different numbers multiply to make 16. So I just have to try some different options. For instance, if you tried a 4 and a 4, those multiply to make 16. But when we check the outside terms and the inside terms, let's see what they make. Well, here the inside make 4x, the outside make 4x, and you see that only adds to make an 8x. But I don't want an 8x, I want a negative 10x. So I know those aren't the right numbers. So once you've tried something, go ahead and erase it, but also keep track of what you've tried so you don't end up trying that same number again. So I know I've already tried 4 times 4, so I'm going to cross that out and try a different set. Let's try 8 times 2. Those numbers multiply to make 16, so I know that is right. Now I just need to check the outside and inside terms. Well, the inside are 8x, the outside are 2x, and those numbers do add to make a 10x. So I got the right numbers, now we just need to figure out the signs. Well, since they multiply to make a positive, that means that we have the same sign. So this is something that you should note down. When this term is positive, and this term is positive as well, so these are both positive. These are positive, that means that we are going to end up factoring, and we will have the same sign. So now we just need to figure out what that sign is going to be. Well, since they add to make a negative, that means they're both negative. You see, negative 8x and negative 2x make a negative 10x. So we've already checked the answer. We know it's right because in order to come up with that answer, we went ahead and multiplied as we went. So there it is. Well, here's another example. We've got x squared and a positive 24 as the last term. X squared is the first. So I know it's x and x for the first terms. I also know the sign, remembering that rule we just talked about. Since they multiply to make a positive, add to make a negative, that means they're both negative. Now we just need the numbers that multiply to make 24. So numbers that come to my mind are maybe 6 and 4. But when we check the outside terms and inside, let's see what they make. So here we have negative 6x. Outside make a negative 4x. See, those only add to make negative 10x. That does not match, so that's wrong. So we know we can erase that and note down again that we've tried those numbers. So we tried that negative 6. We tried the negative 4, and we know that's not right. So let's try another set of numbers that multiply to make 24. Negative 8 and negative 3. Well, when we try that, it makes negative 8x, and here we have a negative 3x, and those numbers do add to make negative 11x. It matches, so we've got our answer, x minus 8 and an x minus 3. So it's some guess and check, also some intuition. You might be able to do some guessing and checking in your head right away to see if you're getting the right answer before you even go much further. Well, here's one that a lot of people miss. See, a lot of people miss this one because they're thinking of different numbers, but they're thinking of different numbers each time, like for instance 2 and 3. And then they say, okay, they both have to be negative. Well, we go ahead and try this, and it just doesn't work. Here we have negative 2x, here we have negative 3x. See, that only adds to make negative 5x, not a 7. So once you've tried something, erase it and go on to something else. Again, always make note of what you've tried so you don't end up trying that same number again. So again, we tried 2 and 3, and both were negative, and that was wrong. So the only other numbers that multiply to make 6 would be 6 and 1. And you see the inside terms make negative 6, outside make a negative 1, and that does add to make negative 7. So that's it. X minus 6 and x minus 1. Well, a few more to try here. let's say we had this one. We have two numbers that multiply to make x squared. Just like all the other problems, it's always going to be whatever those values are, x and x in this case. Now, we need numbers that multiply to make a positive 30, and this time they add to make a positive, so I know both signs are positive. So again, if this sign is positive, and that means that, well, both x squared and the 30, the first and last terms are both positive, that means the outer and inner terms add to make 13, so that means they're both positive. Well, numbers that we might try, maybe a 10 and a 3. Maybe that'll end up working. And so we go ahead and check those outside terms, check the inside terms, and see what we get. We got a 10x, we got a 3x. Hey, all right, we got it on the first try. First one to get it on the first try. That's always a good feeling there. So we can go ahead and write down that answer there, x plus 10 and an x plus 3. So the nice thing again about this method is, as you're doing it, you're putting the answer in the form that they want, and you're getting the answer automatically. It also allows us, we can write down the possible answers that we've already tried to make sure we don't try those again. This one's a tough one because 48 has lots of factors. So common answers people are going to start off with are 12 and 4. And we know that they're both negative signs because they multiply to make a positive and add to make a negative. Well, we check our outside and inside terms. Let's see what we get. 12x and negative 4x. Well, that only makes negative 16x. That's not big enough. So in order to get the number bigger when we add, we need the numbers to be further apart. So we know that 4 and 12 don't end up working. Well, 6 and 8 are closer together. We don't want to try those because 6 times 8 makes 48, but those numbers only add to make 14, something even smaller. So if the numbers are going to add to make a value, like the inner and outer terms add to make 19, we want the numbers spread apart further. So let's go ahead and erase what we tried. So we tried the 12, we tried the 4, it didn't work out. So let's go ahead and try something that's further apart. And if you can't think of the numbers that are further apart than 12 and 4, what you need to do is you need to break those numbers down. We've already broken 48 down to 12 and 4. Let's go ahead and break the numbers down further. Let's take that 4, break it down to 2 and 2. Let's take this 12 and break it down to maybe 4 and 3. And so we can even break the 4 down even further. 2, 2, and we got a 3 and 2 more 2s. And then we can reorder these in different ways. You see, here was the 12 and 4 right here. 12 and 4. Well, we don't want that. We want something different. So let's reorder the numbers. Let's take all the 2s. 2, 2, 2, and 2. And then let's regroup the 3 afterwards. See, this makes 16, and this is 3. So using this method of prime factorization can allow you to maneuver the numbers around and figure out different combinations that you might not know that make a value like 48. So let's try that. 16 and 3. When we know those make 48 because 16 is right there and 3 is right here, and those are the different factors that make 48. Well, this would be 16. This would be negative 3, and those two numbers do add to make negative 19. So we got it. X minus 16. And we had an x minus 3. Well, let's see if we can get those problems any tougher than that one. That one seemed like it was the toughest one. So let's try another one here. We've got an x squared plus 16x plus 28. Well, that doesn't seem too bad. 28 is not such a big number. And the most often try that would be first would be 7 and 4, because a lot of people think of 7 times 4. Yeah, that makes 28. I know both numbers are positive because they multiply to make a positive and add to make a positive. Well, let's check the outside terms and inside terms, though. Remember, you're just adding these numbers up because there's no coefficient out in front of the x. So x and 4 make 4x and 7x, and those will add to make 11x. Ooh, too small. So what does that tell us? It tells us that we need the numbers further apart. And so what other numbers multiply to make 28? Well, let's break it down. 7 and 4 we know make 28. Let's break this down to 2 and 2, and then 7. And let's regroup it. Let's regroup the 7 and the 2 together. make 14. 14 and 2 multiply to make 28. Let's try those. So let's go ahead and erase what we did. We know that's not right. And we already did it, so let's not do it again. Let's go ahead and 7 and 4, let's cross that off. So we put 7. Actually, we said we would do 14 and 2. So 14 times x makes 14x. 2 and x make 2x. Those numbers do add up to make 16. It works. So there it is. We've got our answer, x plus 14, and we have an x plus 2. So those are some of the problems similar to what you'll end up seeing on tonight's homework. Good luck.